You are listening to the Standards Desk of News from The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Childs and Cindy Parakill.
Hey, Cindy Parakill.
Hey, Matthew Childs.
Well, shall we have the Standards Desk of News?
Yep, let's do it.
Yes, this is the Standards Desk of News. News about standards and standards in the news. And this time we are covering stories from May 2024.
And we start with the S7 Summit, the G7 of standardization.
This is something that actually happened last month, and we did mention it in last month's Standards Desk of News, but didn't have time to cover it in detail. In late April, the first S7 summit took place in Rome in the context of the Italian presidency of the G7. The event was organised by UNI, the Italian national standards body, under the theme of How Standards Can Support Global Social, Green and Digital Policies, the human-centric perspective of the G7 national standards bodies.
The event brought together national standards bodies of the G7 countries: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, together with European and international organizations, CEN, CENELEC, and ISO.
At the summit, BSI highlighted the pivotal role it is playing shaping the future of UK nature markets by spearheading the development of a standard that could provide trust and confidence for investors in nature. This standard aims to align with UK environmental goals, including reversing biodiversity loss and achieving net zero ambitions. More to come on that issue and standard in a future episode. Now, new guidelines on promoting gender equality and women empowerment.
Despite real progress, gender inequalities and gender-based discrimination remain widespread throughout the world. Societal gender role expectations towards female and male behavior are reflected in the very functioning of organizations, including their culture, processes, and hierarchies. The persistent gender inequalities within organizations mirror the structural discrimination faced by women and girls in society.
For example, 5 out of 10 women worldwide are integrated into the labour market, compared with 9 out of 10 men. And women are still in the minority in governing bodies and other positions of power.
A new standard has been launched to help organizations address these important issues. ISO 53800 provides guidelines and tools for both public and private organizations to encourage, support, and guide them in making sustainable progress in promoting and achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. Available now, the standard is intended to promote a common understanding on the issue of gender equality and to complement other instruments and initiatives. A national standardization strategy for Fiji.
Fiji's Ministry of Trade is developing a national standardization strategy to align its national objectives with appropriate local and international standards. Covering diverse sectors and issues such as construction, tourism, and the environment, the strategy will ensure that standards evolve to support both innovation and growth in the economy. To be developed over the next 18 months, the strategy will involve an analysis of priority sectors, stakeholder interests, and the identification of topics for new national standards. Quick question, Cindy Parakill. Fiji is made up of how many islands?
I actually know this, 330 islands.
You don't, oh, wow. Okay. Well, another question then. In which film did the lead character really want to travel to Fiji?
I'm not sure.
The Truman Show.
Oh,
You know The Truman
okay.
Show?
No.
Oh, one of my favourite films. Check out The Truman Show.
Will do.
And finally, from the South Pacific back to Europe now, and have your say on the regulation of European standardisation.
The European Commission is consulting on the functioning of EU Regulation 1025. It wants to determine whether the current regulation is still fit for purpose as the basis for the European standardization system. Regulation 1025, also known as the Standardization Regulation, provides a legal framework allowing the European Commission to request European standardization organizations to draft standards and standardization deliverables for goods and services in support of EU policies and EU law.
The regulation gives a central role to three ESOs, namely CEN, CENELEC and ETSI. To date, these are the only entities allowed to develop European standards in support of EU legislation.
The regulation was amended in December 2022. The key change was that only EU and EEA members, what's called blue-type members, can take the final decision on the development of projects under those standardization requests. The public questionnaire is open until 25th of July 2024.
Yes, get involved and have your say. Now, a reminder that you can find links to some of the stories we have featured today in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show, including our newest thing, our LinkedIn newsletter.
Yes, indeed. Sign up now.
Yes, do. Well, thank you, Cindy Parakill.
Thank you, Matthew Childs.
For May 2024, that's the Standards Desk of News.
You have been listening to the Standards Desk of News from The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.